Welcome to Hooked on Songwriting, the podcast where songwriters reveal the fascinating stories behind their songs and much more. Now here's your host, Luann Hunt.
Hey there, my name is Luann Hunt, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Hooked on Songwriting, the Songwriters podcast. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Victoria Griffin, and she is only 17 years old. And let me tell you, you are going to be amazed at Victoria's insights and wisdom at such a young age. We talked about her greatest musical influence, which also is going to impress you and probably surprise you because this person had their heyday many, many decades ago. So that was a fun conversation. We also talked about Victoria's process in songwriting, what her themes are, and what her hopes and dreams are for the future in a music world that is just oversaturated now. So again, I know you're going to enjoy her immensely and be inspired by her. So without further ado, let's welcome Victoria Griffin to the show. So Victoria, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm really doing great. I'm happy to be here. It's been a wonderful Thursday morning.
Well, that's good. So I want to find out a little bit about your backstory and how long you've been interested in songwriting first, and then we can delve into some of the more, I guess, deeper topics about your content and what inspires you and things like that.
Okay, sounds good.
So yeah, tell us about your background. Did you start thinking about this when you were little, or?
So my mom put me in piano lessons when I was 5 years old because she really valued both of her children learning instruments, and she put my brother in guitar. And so she figured if she put me in piano, we could like jam together and have like a little band just as siblings. And I've been playing piano, like I never stopped. Like there were times when I was 8, 9, 10, where I would get really frustrated with learning music, and I would quit and I would take like 2-month-long breaks, but I always ended up back at the piano because it was my place. Like music was my outlet for all of my feelings, all of my grievances, all of my joy. Like whatever I was feeling, I could just play it. And I've been writing songs since I was 7. My family is musical. My parents, neither of them are musical, but they love music. And I grew up going to concerts, and my uncle is a musician. And so I always grew up going like backstage to concerts and really up close and personal with the music scene. I saw like, like sound check rehearsals for bands and green rooms. And I always knew that music was a thing that people could do as a job. And so when I got old enough to like write and think, I would sit down at the piano and I would write my little lyrics about everything and nothing. It could be like the grass or some desire to be loved, which was wild for a 7-year-old, but totally still a feeling that I felt. And I'm 17 now. I'm a junior in high school. And at some point, I started making music with my brother. And we had a little childhood band called Shanty Cake, where I would play the piano and he would play the guitar, or he'd play the guitar and I would sing. And we'd sing like children's songs that we wrote together.
Were there any solo artists or bands that you listened to a lot growing up that you felt like you wanted to emulate?
Oh, for sure. One of my biggest influences was Alicia Keys. I love Alicia Keys. And Brandi Carlile. Brandi Carlile is one of my favorite people and artists of all time. When I was younger, I was big into Taylor Swift, still am. But she was one of the first like female singer-songwriters that I knew about. And that was one of the first times I knew that like you could be a singer and also a songwriter, that you could write your own songs. And now one of my biggest influences as a duo artist with Olivia is the Indigo Girls. I love the Indigo Girls. Hosier is a big lyrical inspiration for me. Olivia and I actually just saw the Indigo Girls together live last week, and it was the coolest experience of my life. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like solo female artists that have inspired me, and I would say Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile are pretty big ones.
So Alicia is kind of way before your time. How did you get to know her music?
I have always loved Alicia Keys music. Like my mom, I guess, used to play it for me. And my first piano recital song accompanying a chorus, I was 8 years old, was a recital of the song We Are Here by Alicia Keys. And I played it on the piano and a chorus sung with me. And it was super cool. And then when Olivia and I first started playing together, the first song that we covered was Beautiful Noise by Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile. And that was probably what sparked the rest of our like wanting to play together, was that song. And it was just really cool to feel so empowered while playing it.
So what is it about Brandy's music that resonates with you?
Okay, this is a fun one. I love that bridge between country and folk and pop that Brandi creates. And it's so soulful, and her voice really resonates with me because I have a low voice as a girl, and I've grown up around girls with high voices, and it's always been troublesome for me to like sing their songs or know that I like can't sing their songs. But with Brandi, I can always sing her songs, and her lyrics really hit me. Like one of my favorite songs is The Story, and everything is just so emotional. The lyrics, the melodies, like the way that the songs build. It's just so. Josephine is one of my favorite songs of all time, ever. Like they're so simple, but so deep.
I understand you probably don't know who John Denver is, or you might, but I grew up listening to him and other folk singers of the day. But John's music had that same thing where it was very emotional and it took you somewhere.
Yes.
And I just listened to his music night and day, and it really influenced my own writing in a big way. I mean, even more than the Beatles or other influences of mine. But I just wanted to write those songs that made people feel something really deep.
Me too. I remember listening to, I think it was Josephine. I was probably 13, and I was like, I want to write music that makes people feel this way.
And that's really what it's about. If music doesn't move people, what good is it, right? Otherwise, it's just background noise. And that kind of leads me to my next question, because I wanted to find out where you're at as a songwriter as far as what you're trying to bring to the table, because a lot of the artists today copy each other. They sound like one another. And you hear it and you're like, "Oh, that sounds like so and so," and I don't hear a lot of uniqueness in today's music. So I wanted to find out your opinions about that, and also, again, where you're at with what your style is and what you're trying to bring that's different and unique.
Okay, so this is funny because as someone who's going to specialize in law, preferably entertainment law, this is like such a topic in the field right now because people are like, they're stealing my concepts, they're stealing my melodies. Like other artists are like having quarrels and troubles with each other because of the idea of plagiarism in music. And it's wild to me because as much as I don't currently love the modern pop genre of like it feels kind of superficial to me right now, people experience such universal feelings and they write about them. And so for me, it's kind of hard to call it copying or plagiarism because you can't plagiarize a feeling. Like if you're feeling it and you write about it and someone else feels it and writes about it, like people write about love all the time. Well, two people, while love isn't experienced the same for everyone, it's a similar sentiment. it's hard not to copy that. But as far as what I want to bring to the table that's different, I was raised homeschooled from ages 6 to 14 when I started dual enrolling at the local community college. And I didn't grow up knowing all of the mainstream topics and music and social medias until like last year. So all the music that I wrote from ages 7 to 16 was all like stuff that I've absorbed from just around me. And so what I'm bringing to the table, I guess, is a sense of what's it called? Like genuineness. It's just my raw feelings that I transformed into words that I read in books and then put out through my brain. And I know a lot of other people bring genuine qualities to music, so I don't know if I'm bringing anything new to the table, but I'm definitely bringing my own perspective and hoping that the table accepts it, if that makes any sense.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, we all have our own unique stories to tell, and that's for sure. How about musically, though? Because again, the
Yes.
music is very, I've heard that before 8 million times. So, how about musically? Do you think about what do I want to do when I record music that's different?
This is true. I have been experimenting with mixing on my computer, and I'm an acoustic artist. Like, I've been playing piano for 12 years. Most of my music is piano based. I play the guitar too. I play the mandolin. I play a couple of instruments, but piano is my main instrument. And I make most of my music to be played on the piano with just piano and vocals. But I've been experimenting with making it electronic sounding in an app called Logic Pro. And it's been a really interesting process to see how I can convert such an acoustic singer-songwriter sound to also sounding right when it's made electric. And I think that that's really cool because I've played my music on Spotify is electric, and then it's all made digitally. And then the same music I play live is just me and my piano, and people seem to like it both ways, which is super interesting to me.
Well, when you talk about electronic music, I think about how far away that is from folk. But
Yeah.
I know if you write a great song and a great melody, it can morph into a lot of different styles too.
Yes, it really can. Like, I write folk music and I play the guitar and all of these like folk instruments, but then it's also been really fun to convert it into like, I don't even know how to call it, folk rock. I've been calling it folk rock because it's it's got these like roots rock elements when I produce it digitally that it does not have in person, but both of them still sound like me, which has been really cool to experiment with.
Yeah, I get that because I started out as a folk artist and it was very folk. And then I sort of moved into country and then I started to expand and bring in some pop sensibilities in my music. And I can listen to my entire catalog of literally 24 albums and it still all sounds like me. You know what I mean? Even the old stuff compared to the new, it's still like a Luann Hunt record. You know what I mean?
I do. That's so interesting, like the way that people evolve and their musical styles evolve, and it still sounds like them. I forgot to mention my biggest musical inspiration that I totally like stem all of my beliefs and music and piano and everything from that I just slipped my mind about is Carole King. I am a huge Carole King fan. She was like the person that made me want to be a musician and play piano and write music. Carole King, gotta mention her.
Have you ever seen a movie called Grace of My Heart?
I would like to if it has anything to do with Carole King.
Well, it's not autobiographical. The character's loosely based on Carole King. But back in the 60s, there was a place in New York City called the Brill Building. And all the big writers wrote songs out of that building. I mean, they produced the biggest hits of the day. And Carole King was one of the people that wrote music in there. But like I said, the story, it's not really autobiographical. It was inspired by her story. I've watched the movie like, I don't know how many times. It's just a great movie. And even though you didn't grow up in that era, it does kind of bring you into this feeling of that era. When I saw that movie the first time, I saw it at the movie theater, and I had just gotten into songwriting and recording. And I remember just walking out of the theater kind of on cloud nine. I was so inspired by the story. And I related to the main character, and I'm sure you will too, in different ways. But yeah, I'm impressed that Carole King is like your all-time musical influence, somebody that their heyday was so long ago. And yeah, she was a fine musician, a fine writer, singer, everything. I don't know if you've seen the musical about her life, Beautiful.
I actually I actually auditioned for that musical about a month ago because it's my favorite musical. And I'm a theater kid. And I auditioned for Carol because my local community center was doing it. And I was like pretty sure that I had the role, but not enough girls ended up auditioning. And so we didn't put the show on, which was devastating because Carole King is my absolute dream role. And oh, it's my favorite. Beautiful. The first time I saw it, I was at the Phillips Center in Gainesville, and I was probably 12 years old. I was in love. It was the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, we saw it last summer, and I was like, whoa, this is incredible. And I would see it again, probably many times. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
So what's one of your favorite Carole King songs?
Oh, um, when I was 11, I did "I Feel the Earth" for a piano recital. That was so fun. I love Tapestry is my favorite album. I have it on vinyl. I have it on my headphones 24/7. It's the coolest, most authentic album I think is ever written, which is a bold statement, but it's true. Um, I think my current favorite Carole King song is "So Far Away." I just think it's such a beautiful song. I love "Natural Woman," "Locomotion." Like they're all good. And even if it's not like her song, just Carol's version of everything is just my favorite.
I'm sure she would be extremely happy to know she has such a fan that's only 17 years old. I mean, that's just amazing. So, but I was always a fan too. So, and I think those of us who have those more refined taste in music, because a lot of people don't. I think those of us who do are actually better writers because we have a bar that we're setting. I mean, do you find that to be true?
Yes, I definitely think that I'm a better writer because of what I listen to. Like, I do not claim to be a fully original artist. I definitely stem inspiration from what I hear, just like how people pick up speech patterns from the people they surround themselves with. I definitely pick up musical influence. And I think that when I listen to music, I really listen to how other people write. Like, are they describing people? Are they describing nature? Like, what are we trying to evoke in the listener here? And I think that Carole King does a really good job of like providing different musical like styles and descriptions. And Elton John, like those are two of my biggest people I stem. Like the way that I write my songs, I write them pretty similar to how those people write.
I think we need more of that in today's world because lyrically, the songs that I've heard are pretty thin. You know what I'm saying? And musically, like I said earlier, it's sort of the same old, same old. So you're not getting a whole lot of depth in today's music. And back then, all the artists came out and they all had their own deal and they brought something so special and unique to the music. So I think that's what made us want to listen to music over and over again. And clearly, you're 17 and you're listening to these old artist. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah, my grandma has always been a big fan of music, and she would always put on Beatles albums that we'd have dance parties to. And my mom's a huge Elton John fan, and she always played this one song, which came to be my favorite song of all time. And I don't say that lightly. Like, it is, I've been saying it's my favorite song for years. It is my favorite song, and that's Leave On, by Elton John. And I always just grew up surrounded by people who loved music and surrounded by music that I loved. And that really just shaped how I write my lyrics now. Like, the music that I was exposed to, I was not exposed to modern pop radio for a really long time. And I think that did something to me.
Yeah, you were actually you were lucky.
Really?
Right? So, because I don't know, like everybody in my generation, we look back and we say, they don't make music like that anymore. And we think, is it just us? Are we just old fogies and we don't want to have anything new? But I don't think that's true, because me, as someone who really loves music, I want to hear new material from people, and I want to be moved the same way with the new stuff as I am the old, but yet I have trouble finding that type of thing. It's really unbelievable the way it's changed, because we always say that back when we were growing up, music was the soundtrack of our lives. And it sounds like it's the soundtrack of your life. And I'm just so happy to know that. I'm so happy that somebody of your age is really doing that with music, like listening to it as though it's part of your everyday experience.
I can't imagine my life without music. I listen to music all the time. I make music all the time. One thing that I will say has really helped me feel free with my creation of music is my mom had a rule growing up for me and my brother that there was no bedtime if you were making music, and there was no telling people that they couldn't make music, even if it sounded really bad. Like, my brother, oh, God love him, he took up the saxophone at some point, and like an old $100 saxophone, and we were not allowed to tell him that he sounded bad or that he was not allowed. We couldn't tell him to stop, basically. And he ended up being really good at the saxophone because we just let him keep practicing until he got better. And, or like, if people who were making music that was just loud and you were tired of it, you could remove yourself from the situation, but you couldn't tell them to stop. And I think that that was really pivotal to know that whatever music I was making had a place, even if people wanted to tell me to stop.
Well, I commend your mother for having that attitude. That's incredible. That is incredible. She must be a very special person. That's all I can say. I would also like to know, right now, I know you've been writing, I'm sure, like, what are some of the themes that you've been exploring?
I've been exploring a lot of relationships, not just romantic, like relationships, writing about relationships between parents and children, writing about relationship dynamics between friends. And because I'm 17, I am exploring like the ideas of romance potentially. So I write about potential romance. I write about like feelings that I feel as a teenager in today's society, of being generally unhappy with the state of the world and being happy with the state of my like intimate surroundings. There's such a difference, like such a contrast between my current intimate surroundings and global surroundings, because the state of the world right now, not too great. There's wars, there's so much injustice going on, and that's so easy to write about. It's easy to write about hard things for me. And but then I look around and like I'm looking at a tree right now. There's like birds chirping, and I sometimes write about the parallels between how like stark the contrast is between the horrors of what the global community is experiencing versus the joys of what I'm surrounded with as a really privileged person. But then also I write about being in love and cute things like that.
Well, I think we go through our moods as songwriters, you know. The fun part is just writing whatever you feel like writing and
Yeah,
seeing what happens, right? Just following that path.
for sure.
Well, I'm sure you have music online, so could you tell our listeners where they can hear you?
Yes, I'm currently in the middle of a brand switch from my old music name to my current folk presence. So you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, all the musics, whatever you listen to, at Princess Charming Music, because my old stage name was Princess Charming when I was making music when I was younger. And you can find me on Instagram at Princess Charming Music, and you can find me on YouTube at Victoria Griffin. And hopefully soon you'll find me on all platforms as Victoria Griffin. But by the time this comes out, I'll still be Princess Charming.
Do you have any projects that you're working on right now?
I am really excited to announce that I have my first live album record coming up at Heartwood Soundstage in Gainesville. Sometime early June. I don't have an exact date yet, but that's really exciting. Olivia Hunter and I just recorded a live album at Heartwood Soundstage for her music, and I play piano on that, and I sing harmonies and do percussion. It's very Indigo Girls-esque. I've been playing festivals with Olivia. I don't know if we have any more upcoming festivals because she is about to go to college, but I'll keep y'all updated on my Instagram about that you know now because I said it.
Well, that's great. And you know, this has just been so much fun. And just to be able to talk to someone who is starting out in life with their songwriting and their career, who has so much wisdom, is really, it's been a joy for me. I mean, I'm really impressed, I have to tell you. And I think with your mindset, it's going to help you get so much further along than a lot of people because you have the right attitude and you're clearly doing it because you love the music. And that's why we all should be doing it, not for fame, fortune, you know, for attention or whatever.
Yeah, I always get so nervous talking about music in interviews because I always feel like I'm not doing it justice. I'm like, music is such a big thing to me that I can't even explain with words what it means to me. So I'm glad that you think that I'm cool and young and I have the right attitude and stuff because I really strive for that. That's means a lot to me.
Well, you definitely do. And I appreciate you being here with me. And, you know, we have our upcoming showcase on June 15th here in the Villages, Florida. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and hearing you live. I think it's going to be a great evening of incredible talent. So we have that to look forward to soon.
Thank you so much.